music.
He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Hello, and welcome once again to Bat Minute Returns, the podcast where we lick the face of Tim Burton's 1992 Batman sequel, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And rounding out the hosting team, it is I, John Parker, catnip to nerds like you.
And today we're joined by content creator, alternative lifestyle educator, Brittany Simon. Hello, Brittany.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Woo, thank you for joining us. It's your first appearance on the show.
Yes, I'm excited.
Going to talk about alternative lifestyles. This minute is pretty explicit about some of that stuff.
Oh,
or maybe it's all subtextual. Maybe we're reading too much into it, but you never know. You never know.
I would say, given Tim Burton's history of filmmaking, we are not reading into it.
Oh no! Oh no!
No, I think he was sending us a message.
I think I said this last minute, but this scene really stuck with me from childhood. Like I didn't know why I enjoyed this scene, but I did very much. And now as an adult, I do even more so enjoy it.
Do you know why?
Oh, I know why now.
When I was a kid, I was just like, oh yeah, it's just a scene from the movie, and like it's only really like in the recent years I've been like, holy, this is like hella hot. Like this is a really sexy scene. But it's like that's just two people fully clothed just talking to each other. But it's like, oh no, this is really, really sexy. But
there are things much sexier than just being naked. Come on.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. As someone who spends most of her time naked, I will tell you it's almost gone to this default natural, like almost way of being. Now when I'm wearing just a little bit of clothing, it's a lot sexier. It's like, oh, tease. It's like better. It's like better. So this whole scene for me was basically like a big fat tease. Like it's exactly. It was like a fight tease. I love fight sex. Like fight sex is the best sex. So it's like they're battling, villain versus good guy, and they're having this moment, but he's also the anti-hero. So it's kind of like, ooh, it's like good and bad and dirty at the same time. It's great.
Yeah. Oh God, there's a lot to say. Where do we even begin with this?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess we should introduce the minute. That might be the. Well, this of course is minute 80. We're almost a feature film length into this season of the show. This is crazy.
I can't believe it. It feels like we just started this season.
Yeah. But minute 80 begins with a cat mounting a bat, and ends a minute later with a bat violently dismounting the cat.
Yeah, we go from sensuality to violence quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's even one of the most intriguing elements of this. It's like, what is Catwoman's deal? Like, what, she maybe this feels like I'm saying this as a man. And Brittany might be like, oh, I totally get what Catwoman's deal is, but I'm like, what does she want? What is what's her approach to this whole relationship? Oh. She seems so like she's kind of into it, and all of a sudden she's not, and then it's like, what's going on here? But
she's into it. I think the violence is part of what she's into.
Oh, yeah. Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I think for me, growing up watching Poison Ivy or Catwoman against Batman, it was clear that their kink was mostly a power exchange kink, which meant that they enjoyed Batman because he was a challenge, he was as powerful, and honestly, he kept coming back for more.
Oh. So
it was like, you know what I mean? Honestly, if that's not flirtation, what is? He keeps coming back to hang out, so...
Well, that's the thing. He knows he shouldn't. But he is very taken by Catwoman, and as you say, we're going to get to in a while, Poison Ivy, in a couple of films' time. But he knows he shouldn't enjoy this, but there's something there he can't keep away.
They throw in an early Simpsons reference. It's like his mind says no, but his heart and his hips cry proceed.
I mean, I think there is this, especially when it comes to villains. I mean, why? For me, I love the villain of the story because they always have, I mean, it's why I've preferred DC over Marvel. I feel like DC's good guys and bad guys have they have interesting stories that are really more in-depth, in my opinion. And I think even their shitty B movies I will take because their characters are just complicated enough that I love getting even a taste. Like, even a taste. So when I was younger, watching things like Batman, for the female villains like Catwoman, it was about seeing two grown adults who understood exactly what they were doing. There is no question that they both understand what they are doing. No one is actually a victim in this situation. They're both equally powerful. They're just on different sides of the quote-unquote good and evil aisle. But they're basically the same. How do I say this? If Batman wanted, he could have destroyed Catwoman. He keeps her around because he likes her. And she likes him. She could kill him too. They love each other. That's what... Isn't that the romance of the villain and the good guy always doing the dance?
Oh, yeah.
They need each other. They need each other.
Well, even here, like, it's very explicit in that. Like, he's lying flat out on his back, and she's mounted him. Batman could easily get out of this situation. But he is just like, yeah, I'm just gonna lie here and see where this goes because I'm into this woman. Like,
he's
so
enjoying being straddled, and if you watch this minute, everyone, he's enjoying, I think, how close her hands are to his neck.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he must get bored, right? It's kind of like Superman can't find his equal when it comes to having a battle. It's Batman, too, must get bored with how many people try to pursue him. Because, I mean, the Joker loves him, too. But if he's going to choose a partner, I feel like Catwoman is a little bit more mentally stable. You know what I'm saying?
More mentally stable.
A little bit, just like if Batman's gonna settle, you know. But all of his bad guys are a little crazy, which I think he needs because he's also a little crazy. And I think that, I mean, that's Batman, isn't it? I mean, for me, it is. That's how I've always seen him as the most troubled, crazy individual who's trying really hard not to be. But come on, you live in a cave with a bunch of bats.
Well, that's often an approach of the villains, isn't it? That they bring this up with Batman a lot. Not so much in these films, but they, like in the comics and stuff, they will say to him, like, you are one of us. You are crazy like we are. Actually, that brings up a point as well, because you mentioned the villain being Catwoman. Do you see her as strictly a villain in this? Because we've kind of we've decided, like, we mostly agree with her mission. She's essentially been screwed over, specifically by men left and right all her life, and she's snapped because she's been pushed over the edge, literally, of a building. So she's essentially, you sympathize with her mission. She just wants this justified revenge almost that goes too far, I think.
I mean, as an activist, I always tell people, listen, watch who you're oppressing because eventually they will come back. And that's the thing. You oppress people long enough, they will seek out justice. And that's, I think most women, most people, when they have a struggle, what they do is they usually reach out for help first. And then people usually reject them. Also the story with Poison Ivy and like everyone else is like, they have these goals that are technically okay or good, or they just want to be heard. But if you do not let people speak, if you silence humans, oh yeah, they'll find a way to rise up. And I think a big part of that is understanding why she wants to speak. It's because she's never been able to in the way that she's needed to. Also, these films are just like, I like to watch old films as a documentary almost, to go back to watch, like I like to go back to watch these films to see what were women doing, what were men doing, how were the roles played, what were the characters like, because that's what I'm learning. I'm watching Catwoman in this scene, and I'm thinking, damn, she's powerful, she's inserting her power, sex is power, money is power, and she's sitting here, and they know it. It's not like anyone's being violated, which is my favorite part, obviously, because now we have two grown adults who are battling it, and that's my favorite. It's like, ooh, who's gonna win this battle? And then she licks him, which, by the way, can be either... It could have gone either which way. Can you imagine licking someone's face like that and then having them look at you in disgust? It would have totally taken away her power. It would have taken away her power. The fact that he was into it was her power. That's why it was, like, even better for me. I was like, oh, Batman, you whipped. You whipped. And she's got that leather whip. She's got that leather whip. She is literally a dominatrix. Like, Catwoman is everyone's dominatrix dream. Especially Michelle. Like, she is fantastic.
Oh, she's amazing. And I think she is the first character I ever saw that had that dominatrix element to it. Because I was a kid when I watched this. I didn't know what a dominatrix was. But I understood the dynamic, I think, without fully understanding the nuance, but I got kind of where it was coming from. So this was
Yeah.
my introduction to that kind of thing existing.
Oh, that's actually, I'm not surprised, honestly, because Batman's movies in general, like, specifically Poison Ivy and Catwoman were literally my childhood. I don't know what this is called, but I'm into this, whatever that is, and so it makes sense. I swear my parents tried to keep me away from, they were really Catholic, so they tried to keep me away from naughty films, so they had me watch superhero films, and I'm like,
thinking you were
jokes,
safe.
Jokes on you, Mom and Dad.
This is the filthiest one of all.
It's almost like Tim Burton himself was getting in contact going like, don't worry, I got you. I've slipped it
It's
in.
hilarious.
Don't worry about it.
And I love that because Tim Burton himself is alternative, so you can see it in his film. He does talk about alternative lifestyles through cinema, which I love so much. Like, honestly.
Well, that's one thing as well, though, particularly with this version of Batman, and particularly with Catwoman, because we did mention, like, way back in the original, like, the Sam Half original draft of the script, they flat out mentioned, like, oh, she's wearing a bondage mask. They're not shying away from the fetishistic aspect of it, but, like, I do like looking into, like, the definition of like rubber and latex fetishism, because these are two characters dressed head to toe and this kind of stuff, and you kind of start questioning like, are they into it, like what is this, and got down here as a little definition as like one reason why latex or other tight shiny fabrics may be fetishized is perhaps that the garment forms a second skin that acts as a fetishistic surrogate to the wearer's own skin. Thus, wearers of skin-tight latex or PVC garments may be perceived as the viewer as being naked or simply coated in shiny substance like paint. But it's adding a further visual stimulus to add to the physical sensations produced by the garment. The tightness may also be viewed as this kind of sexual bondage and stuff. But the idea of it being a second skin, considering that these are these two characters' second identities, it also adds so much to that. It's like, oh yeah, so this is like, it's almost like we've got this mysterious breakup between film 1 and film 2 of Batman and Vicky Vale, and it kind of gets into like, she couldn't take him being Batman, basically what it is. But also you could read into it as like, well, Bruce Wayne's a guy who willingly goes out and he's dressing in this really tight, rubbery, kind of fetishistic kind of gear every time. And he's also a guy who, like, he's going to get beat up. He's going to be inflicting a lot of pain. He's inviting pain to be inflicted upon him. You do wonder if it's a sort of a sadomasochistic sort of fetishistic idea to his version of Batman. Maybe that's why he's getting off on it, and that's why he sees from the quite blatant attire of Catwoman like a kindred spirit in terms of like, oh, she is like me. She kind of, maybe she gets me and stuff, but...
So, if I'm going to be, like, completely honest, from my perspective, and I think this is going to sound weird, but I've always seen Batman as sort of a bottom or a switch, because I think he has a lot of, like, shame associated with the fact that, like, his parents died in front of him, so I think look at me reading into a comic book character.
That's what we're here for.
But I think that he honestly probably formed a lot of his kinks and fetishes around that loss, because masochism, often people can express, like, repentance through masochism, and sometimes I think he likes to take the hits because he likes to experience the pain he thinks he deserves. And it's like, I have this whole theory about Batman, but I think he is like, he's a very interesting character, but I do not think he is the domily dom that people might think he is, because he's strong and alpha, or quote unquote alpha, but I think that he's probably someone who derives great pleasure from that idea of being a bottom. And that's why he likes Catwoman and people like Poison Ivy and Two-Face and Joker and like all these people who are obviously daddy in his life. Like literally all of these characters are daddy roles. I feel like it would make a lot of sense at least.
He's not very assertive sexually in any way. The only time he does it is in the first film. And he's in his Bruce Wayne mode, let's say, which is his character, which I've brought up a few times. Batman is really him. Bruce Wayne is the character. And he puts his arm around her to stop her walking away, and he goes in for a kiss. But it feels performative, like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I don't think that's actually something he enjoys.
Like, we did talk about that, like, at the time. It's like, well, nowadays, like, that seemed to be very, very problematic in terms of the fact that Vicky Vale in that scene is supposed to be blinding drunk, and he's obviously very stone cold sober, but it's like, oh, so they're going to go up and they have like it's off screen though, so they have sex off screen, and she wakes up and then he's dangling upside down like a bat. We could interpret that though. Maybe they never did have sex. Maybe this is part of like Bruce's kind of problem with relationships. It's like he's not interested in that aspect. He's like, oh, I got her drunk, so she maybe would think we had sex, and then I can look like I'm normal. And then like she wakes up, and then she sees him hanging upside down like a bat, working out. It's like, yeah, that's how he gets his kicks. Like that's his.
I could see that. I could see him not being into the actual act.
Yeah, well, 100%. Like he's like. Bruce Wayne's his level of psychosis or dysfunction, not even so much dysfunction, just what his way of living his life is. He's still trying to keep up this veneer of normality, but maybe it goes even deeper than what we were initially assuming. Like, oh no, he took up Vicky Vale upstairs and they had sex, but I was like, well, maybe they never did. Maybe that's why they broke it off, is because. That's not he. Maybe he is in terms of a vanilla lifestyle, he has no interest in it. It's he's getting it off, in entirely different kind of ways and stuff.
Well, I think we know he's not vanilla. Come on.
Yeah, I definitely think he's not vanilla, and I do think that there's a lot of pressure on men, and I think you see that through the comic series, where I think there is this pressure to be like always in charge, to be on top, to be in control. But Batman is the ultimate man who was never and is never in control. He wasn't in control when his parents died. He's not in control when the Joker comes in and out of his life. He's not really in control of any of these people. They come in when they want. They let him win when they think when he thinks he's won. Like, no offense, but I think that given how many times Batman's had to fight the same villain, and I know that's a comic book series, somebody's not so good at his job.
Yeah. No matter how many times he gets them, they come right back.
So I think, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy right there a little bit, not just to sell comic books, but to tell us that Batman it's like Megamind, which is the modern, conversation between villain and hero. They need each other. They need each other. It's like a marriage. I know it sucks. It's not always great, but when it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
But I mean, we should probably talk about, we are talking about what's going on in the minute, but, just to go throughout the content of the minute. We do have this weird, I do love this, this is a pretty much iconic shot, though, of Catwoman on top of Batman. There's this kind of weird statue in the corner, which it looks like just it's a little... So cheruby kind of kid. Is this supposed to be like a kind of Cupid looking kind of image, or is it something else? Like what are they trying to get to?
Yeah, I couldn't see what it actually was, like in the script or in the commentary or anything.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Cupid, and they're like, we don't want to be so blatant though. Like just have something that looks a bit cheruby that will evoke that kind of that kind of imagery and whatnot. But
I'll be honest, right? It's going to be boring. I think it is just. Basically, Tim Burton going, put some creepy statue there. Sometimes all it is a visual choice, and that's fine. That's fine.
But a bit like Tim Burton listening to this, and like, oh, for God's sake, I took months choosing out that damn statue. It was supposed to evoke this, you idiots. But of course, then we do get the. This is kind of throwing back to 1960s Batman dialogue delivered seriously and well. Because she throws
amazing.
in you're catnip to a girl like me, which should be like a real kind of eye-rolling joke. But it works. It totally is that's she's throwing a little I'm Catwoman, you're catnip to a girl like me. And then the whole business of handsome, dazed, and to die for.
No.
It's of course little would Michelle Pfeiffer know that To Die For would go on to be a movie starring Nicole Kidman, the female lead of the next Batman movie. What?
Everything's connected.
Yeah. Maybe she knew, Michelle's I got word down the wire. I'm going to throw in this line. There's a shout out to Nicole Kidman, who's not even been cast in the movie yet.
Well, she's proven right as well when she says handsome, because he looks up here at the TV aerial there, and he proves her point because he goes full on with the Keaton pout. His acting in these movies is 90% pout. That's a hell of a set of lips. You
can imagine just while he's there, he's lips engaged, and they just puff up a little bit more.
Actually, if you've got the minute up, just pause it on the pout. It's insane. I'm jealous of these lips. God damn it.
I wonder how much he practiced that. If he was in the mirror trying to, he created the first Zoolander pout. Yes. He's just sitting there practicing. That's so funny.
Zoolander's actually ripping this off all along.
Basically.
But even that line in itself is telling, though. She's calling him handsome, but he's got the mask on. So it's like, oh, that's Selena Kyle, or not even Selena Kyle, Catwoman is into, like, she finds him handsome with all the gear on and stuff.
Oh, when you're in the scene, when you're in the lifestyle, you can tell. Even with the gear, if someone's like, you can tell. Like his jawline shows. You can see like his eyes, and you're like, Honestly, it's more of an energy thing. I don't know if non-kink people feel it, but I would say that BDSM, especially, like I assume in these scenes in my head, I'm translating it as they're into each other's energy, because energy. When there's even a scene later where he kicks her and like off, and she slams against a barrier, or like the like wall, I guess, and I'm looking at her face. She loves it. She's like, ooh, now the fun's starting. Like it's an energy thing. Like BDSMers always say, let's move off each other's energies. I always joke, like, I don't like your energy, bro. And what I'm trying to say is, like, I would eat you. And like, you want to play with me, you gotta have Catwoman energy, because I go hard. Like, I am a sadomasochist, and like so I play hard. Like, I'm a roughhouser. Like, I wrestle mostly is my kinks. So I'm like, this scene, I'm like, yeah, beautiful scene, beautiful fucking scene.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, you've got to be compatible on that level. That's the whole point, isn't it? Like, you're both there to enjoy it.
It's also very much like, unless you view their relationship through like a kink lens, on a basic level, from what we're presented in the movie, it wouldn't make sense, because it's like, well, yeah, she hates Batman, now she loves Batman, now she hates Batman, now she loves Batman. And there's a real kind of, like, she had a real thing. It's like, what she said earlier in the movie is like, I want to be an integral part in his degradation. And then she seemed angry in that moment, and then she was like, oh, the talk of Batman makes me feel dirty. And that's when she started, and that now, like, looking at it, it's like, of course, oh yeah, this is 100% a kinky kind of thing she's going for. And now that she's got him there, and it is like, she's supposed to be a nemesis to this guy, but she is calling, like, oh, you're catnip to a girl like me, like, you're handsome, dazed, and to die for. Like, she's just flat out flirting and stuff as well. It's like, but then later on in this minute, she friggin' stabs him in the chest, and it's like, what is it? Again, if you came into it from a basic level, you're like, what's your deal, Catwoman? What, you just came here to deliver your mixed messages in person? What the hell is going on?
I don't think there's anything sexier than domination. Like, there's something very hot about somebody being able to, especially someone like Catwoman, who's so, like, she's like, you have the stereotype of the dainty woman, and then here she comes out of nowhere, and she's like, and then bam! And it's like, okay, bitch did not come to play. Like, we are gonna, okay. And I love that. Sorry, you're gonna have to bleep all these, like, words out.
That's all good. Don't worry.
But I love that. There's something really just powerful about this. And it's only a minute. Like, I'm sitting here watching the 60-second clip, and I'm thinking, Jesus. Like, I feel like I'm on a roller coaster of emotions, especially for me. I'm sitting here like, is anyone else seeing how hot this is? Nobody's in this room with me. And like, literally, like, these films were beautiful time for someone like me who was in the closet, who had no reference points to culture or alternative lifestyles. Thank you, Tim Burton, for being the daddy we all needed. Like, who like presented it to us.
I'm sure he's probably never been called Daddy Burton, but there you go.
Actually, if I had to bet money, and I can't verify this, Avi, but like, if I could, I would say that he's probably in a DDLG or BDSM relationship with Helena Bonham Carter. R.I.P. Ugh, they had the ultimate. Okay,
they had a very odd setup, which might support that actually, because
which is my favorite.
They lived in separate
places.
houses, but they were connected. Yep. So if they needed to see each other, they could. But say if she wanted to keep him at an arm's length, she could.
That is literally my goal. When Robert B. Parker was one of my favorite authors. He did the same thing with his wife. They owned a duplex. Tim Burton did it with Helena Bonham Carter. I think it's really dope of a concept, especially if you live with an artist, because I am an artist, and I need an art room. I need like a space to film. I basically make content every day for a living, so I get it. But I also think they were definitely weird AF, and I love that, because like I am too, and I think that shows through both of their arts. I definitely think Tim Burton, without a doubt, knows BDSM. There's no way he created these films the way he made them unless he understands. So even if he's not in it, he knows it. And for that, I give him amounts of respect, because it really gave me a safe place as a kid to be like, okay, I think this might be okay.
I'm sure he would love to hear that. I don't think he's listening, but you never know.
You never know.
No, but he must, as you say, understand this, because he's changed the characters so much, and not in a negative way. This is my favorite of the movies. But that aspect isn't so much there in the comics. Sometimes they'll flirt with it a little bit, but he's really just amped it up to the max. So he has to understand what's going on here 120%.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys know the history of even Wonder Woman, but even the Marstons, when they created Wonder Woman, they were into BDSM and polyamory. So these comic books, anytime I see a whip, I'm like, all right, bitches, I know what you into. I know what you're into.
That's so crazy. It's like, my next note was just like, well, you know, the fetishism goes far back in the DC, and I had a whole thing about Wonder Woman. That's it, exactly. Yeah, like the conception of Wonder Woman does come from very, very kinky background. I'm sure the DC Cinematic Minute guys will be doing a deep dive in that when they get to the next season and stuff.
That makes sense to me, though, because and I don't mean this in a negative way. When I first saw, how do you say her name? Is it Gal Gadot?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought, why have they cast her as Wonder Woman? She doesn't look right. Like, she's too skinny. She's not my kind of type and things like this. But then when I saw the movie, seeing her in action, I did love the film, and I did think she was quite hot. So that explains, I think, why maybe that aspect was coming in.
Yeah, I loved it. Like, I think they did really well overall. I didn't have high expectations, so I think when I went in, I was just like, whoa, okay. Especially that beginning. I'm sorry, as like a queer bisexual woman who's very into women, like that island scene with all the women, I was just like, oh my god, it's my wet dream. Of course, I just love it. And
she did turn Chris Pratt into kind of her little plaything almost. Like, he did her bidding.
It was without a doubt. There's always a power dynamic, in my opinion, in everyone's relationships. It's just called
sorry, let me
different
just interrupt. I said Chris Pratt. I mean Chris Pine.
It's like, John, he had the insight, the whole breakup between Chris Pratt and Anna Faris. Like, it was Gal Gadot who did it the whole damn time.
Oh, it's been a long week. I can get Chris's wrong.
You have your Chris's lined up in a row, John. You have to memorize each one of them. They're all white, muscular, blonde men. Okay, just get all
literally.
that straight. Okay.
All these generic white male leads look the same.
It is getting to a point in my life now where I am. It's like, there's people like Sam Worthington, so it's like, oh, he's just some white guy. Like, it's like, and I say that as a white guy. I'm just like, I don't know. He's just he's a shapeless white muscular man. But even though beyond the whole Wonder Woman thing, like even the kinkiness of Catwoman goes right back to the beginning. Because in the, people might have seen this. This is kind of a popular meme that was going around. And I can't verify that it was 100% true. There's an actual panel in the first Catwoman story, from spring 1940, where the plot line was that the Batman and Robin were investigating robberies on a millionaire's yacht. And as they're going about, they notice a shady character who was helping this elderly woman who, was going about. And they're kind of like, the thing was like, you're supposed to be giving an eye on the guy. But it turned out at the end, when the things were, the ship was intercepted by other robbers on a different ship and stuff. But at one point, there's literally a scene of Batman watching the woman run away, and he actually says in the comic, like, nice legs for an old woman. So there you go, instantly, bringing in something kind of slightly sexually charged right there. But at one point then, when he discovers that it's not, at this point, she's still the cat, not Catwoman. But he rubs off the makeup on her face, and she's saying like, oh no, let go of me. Batman literally says, quiet or Papa Spank. That is a thing he says in the comic.
Papa Spank, okay.
No, Papa Spank. He's saying, I'm your papa, so quiet or Papa Spank.
Oh, Papa Spank.
Yeah. So right from the get-go of the character, they're introducing this sort of like weird, not weird, but like they're introducing like a heavily charged sexual element to it, like from the get-go and stuff. And they even literally have like, their relationship was very firmly established, like from that point as well. Like that actually has then at the end of that first story, they have Catwoman saying to Batman, like, I was supposed to give away half the jewels. Like, why don't you come as a partner with me? They're supposed to be the king and queen of crime and whatnot. But then Batman, of course, been the very heavily closeted man that he is at that point. So it's like, oh, sorry, your preposition tempts me, but we work on different sides of the law. And that's him showing it.
No.
But, of course, now we know this is 2018 was the year of the wedding of Batman and Catwoman. Of course, it didn't work out. Currently, you never know what the end of that storyline is going to be, but well, people at this point might know because we're 10 weeks out
when
from
it
airing.
releases, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you see that there's a very heavily charged, fetishistic, kinky element to the characters and whatnot from literally inception. So I guess if maybe it was a thing in the DC offices way back when. It's like, oh, that Marston guy, he's up to something over here. Like, oh, maybe we could get a little bit of that action.
It was a huge deal, actually, because the Marstons lost all of their money. They came up with the first lie detector machine, which they didn't copyright because they thought everyone deserved knowledge, and that happened. And then the Wonder Woman came out, and the publishing company called it obscene because children were going to read it, so they lost all their money there. They were polyamorous, and then society, ostracized them. They couldn't find a house to rent. Everything, and these things come out in comic books, and I think when I was growing up, my parents would say, look how, innocent comic books are. They're so great. And now that I'm older, I'm like, wait a second. There is nothing innocent. These were obviously created with adults in mind, even though children, and I think children should understand adult themes personally, especially teenagers. You should start getting ready to understand adult themes. But I love that. And I love that people had an opportunity, even at an unforeseen time, to express their weirdness to the world. Because it really, honestly, I know the Marstons will never know what they did, but what they did was they set the path for people like me to have a little bit more of a reference point throughout history. Look, average America, you love Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was a kinkster. She was open relationships. Yeah. You love Batman. Let's talk about trauma and psychology. Let's talk about PTSD. That's what superheroes do for me, at least, is I like to look at them as how can they help me in my everyday life? And they do. They really do, because they are the creation of somebody else who had a struggle just like us and just like, everyone else. So it's the most relatable things I've come out of, I think, comic books, things that have just been created from someone's imagination,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, that is what gives them longevity, I think, because if they were just stories about people with superpowers or whatever, nobody would care, really. It wouldn't last, would it? It would be boring after 5 seconds. So that is what keeps them around and keeps them coming back, I would say.
That's, in case people don't know as well, there's really, if you're unaware of the origins of Wonder Woman and whatnot, really excellent movie came out in the past couple of years. Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman, with Luke Evans and Rebecca Hall. It was a kind of little mini biography of the whole origin of that and whatnot. It was really, really well worth watching. If you want to see the whole bizarre story of the creation of Wonder Woman throughout that. It's not quite what you think it's going to be. So, but yeah, then we also, in progressing the action of the minute, we do get Catwoman is mounted Batman, and he sort of looks over to the corner and spots this somewhat hideous tinsel arrangement on top of a TV aerial, which that doesn't seem like a good idea to me. That seems like it's going to mess up your TV reception. That just looks like someone was like, oh, we need to put a decoration up there. Throw some tinsel on top of it, and it just kind of landed on it. I don't know if it's supposed to be an angel or just stuff.
I've seen that. I feel like that used to be a thing, and I feel like people used to decorate their TVs. Was that a thing, or am I imagining it? But I feel like that was a thing, right? Yeah.
That was definitely. I think we put tinsel all around the screen and everything, which is really distracting.
Yeah.
You just imagine people sitting in trying to watch a game show and just oh my god, TV reception is terrible. Can't wait till Christmas is over and take off that goddamn tinsel off the friggin' aerial.
I try and have as little in my visual range as possible when I'm watching something. I don't want lights near the TV. I want them all behind me and things. I have to have it like a cinema, But I didn't know, with the next line, which is, mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it. I genuinely did not know that it can be.
Oh, yeah.
So, because I was like, what? So I Googled it. And yeah, I've never really had any interaction with mistletoe. It's not a thing to me. It's never been around to me. It's just been in songs and things about Christmas. But if I looked into it, if you eat one or a few berries, you'll probably be fine. You might get a bit sick, but you can still have an anaphylactic reaction. So you've got to watch out for that kind of thing. But if you eat more than a few, basically you need to call up the poison control people and find out I need help right now. You will die quickly by the sound of it.
No, but just on the other side of it, it's also used for medicinal purposes as well. So yes, it's toxic, but it's also used in the treatment of arthritis, high blood pressure, epilepsy, and infertility, as well as cancer. People treat cancer with mistletoe.
Well, yeah, but you treat... I do that at work. We, because I work in a hospital, the listeners probably know. We don't really do it so much now, but we used to supply... We'd have to order it from Germany, a mistletoe-based injection that people could take, which was very odd. We classed it as part of the homeopathy, which we got rid of because it's a waste of time. So we don't really bother getting that in for people now. But yeah, you can inject mistletoe.
Well, apparently you can also get mistletoe tea. Used to treat hypertension as well. So but that's the weird thing about this phrase, though, because this is like the iconic phrase from Batman Returns. Well, one of the iconic phrases. But this to me really strikes me as like landing straight back into Jack Napier's like never rub another man's rhubarb, and do you ever dance with the devil in the pale moon? It's like,
what a line!
For a while, I was just like, is this a phrase people say? Because the thing is, like in the original, well, actually in all versions of the script, Batman first says like a kiss under the mistletoe. Mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it. But in the finished film, he just kind of looks at it and understands that she's looking at it, and then it's like mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it. But I don't know if they're taking away of him saying like a kiss under the mistletoe. It kind of. I don't know if it's robbing his agency in the situation, because he very much does have agency, because he could literally get her off at any time, but he's like going along.
She's getting him off.
Yeah, he's going along with it. But I don't know why they took that out. Has been like just to indicate like this is. But the fact that they do take it out though makes it always made it seem to me like this was a phrase that people knew, because then when she replies like in a rhyming couplet like. Mistletoe can be deadly if you eat it, but a kiss can be even deadlier if you mean it. It sounds like, that's an old phrase that people say, and it's not. That's just the thing that they've come out with.
I tried looking that up as well, and I thought because, of course, one of my favorite bands, and they're on the soundtrack to this, I thought, that sounds like a Susie Sue lyric. Susie and the Banshees could use that as a lyric, which they don't, unfortunately, in the theme song. But it's a shame.
We're going a couple of weeks till we get to Susie Sue. Hold it back, John. Hold back.
Niall, I think about Susie Sue every day. It's fine.
But listeners don't know the amount of I have to cut out about 30 minutes of John just talking about Susie Sue every episode, every one I'm editing.
Basically, she's my Catwoman.
We all need a Catwoman. I never knew all of this about mistletoe. I feel like I just got so much of an education. I was just like, what is this? I love that, though. I love that there's so many uses for it. I can't believe you've never, mistletoe just was, never a thing. I feel like I grew up with so much mistletoe around me. Even this last Christmas, we're all family, and everyone's like, mistletoe! And I'm like, look, you guys, I know you're into incest, but I'm not playing that game this year, Mom. I'm not playing it this year. But,
It always strikes me as mistletoe in the UK strikes me as it's an office-based thing, because people like to be like, hey, kiss under the mistletoe. But it's not done in households and stuff, because it's only utilized for the whole you have an excuse to kiss people under the mistletoe elsewhere.
True.
But in the home, it's just like, nah. We know what's happening here.
We'll have a leather and latex BDSM Batman mistletoe party just for you guys.
It can be the season finale.
Be like a Batman hung from a little leather whip coming down.
I'll bring out my floggers, and we'll just slap it against the microphone.
Actually, that made me think, Niall, was it last minute where you mentioned how there was some kind of version of Catwoman with a cat of nine tails instead of that whip?
Yeah, the various iterations of Catwoman will have a cat of nine tails, which I think I mentioned in the show, in that because she loses the whip at one point in the movie, but then she shows up, she just has the whip again. I was like, I thought they would have, not for merchandising purposes at least, they would have upgraded her to a cat of nine tails, because then it's like, we're getting just the progress of the character and whatnot. But
no. But that's even further into the kink, I think, because you can sort of lightly whip someone with that. You don't have to be full on. You can kind of When Catwoman's delivering that line, a kiss can be even deadlier. I am obsessed with her eyeshadow. I was clocking this for about an hour. I was like, oh my god, the blending going on here.
It's one of these things too. We saw how frantically Selena Kyle was going in that car.
Yeah.
She looks pretty well made up, considering.
How did she do that? If I'm doing makeup, it takes me like 40 minutes.
I have to say too,
I love it.
I don't know if it is because the scene's so like sensual as well, but like Michelle Pfeiffer is on fire in this scene as well. Like her delivery of every line is like, oh, that's just, you couldn't imagine anyone doing this better. Like it's absolutely like even like in the dialogue with Anna, where it's just like, I tried to save you, and she's like, oh well, it seems like every woman you try to save ends up dead, and kind of does this little laugh and stuff. It's like, oh my god, like she so perfectly blended with the character.
Actually, I have a question about that though, because she does say, it seems every woman you try and save ends up dead. Now this is often a good point in Batman stories, but not so much in this universe, because. Who has ended up dead? The Ice Princess? Who cares about the Ice Princess? Not in a nasty way.
Maybe find out that like there's a whole deleted section where like, oh, I also killed Vicky Vale.
Maybe. Well, that is what she says next. Or deeply resentful, which I'm assuming that is a nod to Vicky, right? The way Vicky was resentful of him only paying attention to his Batman role.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he can't commit to a relationship. That's not his thing. He's not interested. To him, he is in the relationship kind of because, that's what I'm supposed to do, I guess. If I want to be normal again, you find a woman. Yeah. But he clearly wasn't feeling it, I don't think. That was always doomed to fail.
I also think it's a villainous kind of taunt as well. The fact that like, oh, you tried to save this woman and she ended up dead. But the bizarre thing as well is that, and we'll talk about it, when it comes up next week, Catwoman herself seems like a bit sort of like shocked and regretful that the Ice Princess died when she's talking to the Penguins. Like, oh, I thought you said you were only going to scare her and stuff. But in this scene, it's almost as if she's kind of taunting Batman. It's like, oh, that's right. Yeah, the Ice Princess is dead as well. So it further showing this split of personality between her. Like, what is going... There isn't a real internal struggle. Like, I know we mentioned... We compared Selena Kyle's version, or the Michelle Pfeiffer version of Catwoman, almost to kind of Gollum. And the fact is, like, yes, two personalities within the one body that almost talk to each other and stuff. But it seems it's much more complex than that. It's a real war of personalities. And sometimes she's like this, and sometimes she's like that, and you can never tell which one's going to be dominant and which one's going to be submissive, and all this kind of stuff. So, there's a much more complex character, it would seem, that than someone with a simple split down the center.
And I forgot to mention actually, because just before this, there's the lick as well that we've brought up. One little detail I enjoyed was Batman is very into it to the point where when she's done, he basically licks her spit off his lips.
Oh,
right? I was floored. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it had been a while since I had seen the scene, and when I saw that, I was like, oh, damn, that's dirty, but that's also very, like, him fighting back. That's, like, him being, like, not intimidated, and I'm like, that's sexy. And then I was just, oh, like, I don't know if normal, like, common people find that sexy, but my brain was like, ding, ding, ding,
oh,
ding,
no,
ding.
that, I mean, who wouldn't want to do the same thing? But at the same time, I'm surprised that they not only put it in the film, but that they were allowed to keep it in the film, because that little detail adds so much to what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I agree. Actually, when I that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, wait a second, what year was this? Like, every time I think that the 90s or the 80s was a purer time, I'm like, no, you dirty horse, you were not. Like, you were not. You were the reason we are this wild. Every time someone asks me why we're so wild, I'm like, no. You were all in the 60s and the 70s. You partied hard.
Oh, yeah.
You got into the 80s and did leather. Don't even mess with me. We are literally just one-upping you. Like, that's all that's happening.
Absolutely.
I think I will also know as well, though, in the shooting draft of the script, none of this the lick and stuff's not there. It's almost as if like they
Oh.
did that as like on set. They're like, this is gonna
Maybe it was genuine tension.
Do you think like it was improv? Like, do you think it wasn't even planned? Do you think they actually just did it naturally?
I think it could be because like Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Keaton used to date before this, so it's
They
kind of like
did?
they have a natural rapport
Oh.
and stuff. And then, yeah, it could be that she was literally like, "What if I licked you?" And then Michael Keaton like, "Oh, well, yeah, what if?" And then you show the Batman's into it. He kind of licks licks the spit off and stuff because that's really sending a message to Catwoman as well of like,
Yeah.
you know, I accept as well. It's not, you know,
Yeah, exactly. He could have been, if he had been as a woman or as a human, I think, just being, if I was on top of a man or a woman and I licked them and they were disgusted, I would have felt mortified. But the fact that they were into it, I was like, oh, damn. It's like, it's like the ultimate win, is what it felt like.
but yeah, I also love as well the music behind the lick as well because it's distorted violins, but it's also a romantic surge as well. So it's kind of going like, this is romantic, but not in your normal way. Like it's sort of, or not in your vanilla way at least. It really like it's very like this whole damn movie is so well done. But that is another exceptional little touch they throw in there. We'll also note as well in the original Waters draft, all the dialogue about like, you know, who is the man behind the bat? Can you help me find the woman behind the cat? Is in this scene. But they, I guess, probably for a better choice as well, they decided, no, just pepper that throughout the whole film instead of just having it all in this one block scene of like, all of a sudden Catwoman's in the Batman now.
Yeah,
like,
you need to spread it out a little bit. You need some build. You need it to build up somewhat, and there's enough going on here with less dialogue.
Yeah. Well, totally. And so we get the infamous lick, Batman accepting of that lick as well, and then
As we all would.
yeah, we do again like the dialogue about like, oh well, every woman you try to save ends up dead or deeply resentful. Maybe you should retire. But that's the other thing as well. Like when Catwoman's going off, maybe it's because it's trained in my brain now from the first movie, because I remember the revelation to me but there was like, oh, there's like a hidden blowjob joke in the first Batman movie where Vicky Vale's like, when she's with the Joker and she's like, oh, purple, I love purple, and it kind of slides down.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of saying to the audience like, wait, is she talking about his
She's
purple,
talking about the old aubergine.
she's talking about the purple
emoji.
hood. Yeah. Well, this is the way Catwoman goes as well. The way she slides back is like, is she gonna do something? Like, it's that level of. But then all of a sudden, unfortunately, actually, the claws come out and she stabs him in the chest. And of course, Batman then violently kind of kicks her back into I'm going to say the wildlife, the planted pots that are behind her.
And as was brought up before, the look on her face for that last split second, she does enjoy it. I think she liked that he did that.
Oh, totally. This is it really does make you want, like, I wish there was more movies of this version of Batman and Catwoman just to see this relationship in even greater depth, because that's one of the last scenes we see between the two of them as well, which is like, that's so well done, but it's like, oh, you're not. It's like they're teasing you, but they're not giving you what you want as well. But maybe that's also
isn't that the perfect thing to do?
Yeah, maybe that was intentional. That they're like, oh yeah, no, we're not giving you it all. But you have to want it.
By the way, when I think about creating, like, adult-focused films, I just want to recreate these scenes and finish them. Like, what would happen if they finish the scene? Like, what happens if they don't fight? And what if they fight to the end? Sorry, you have to blank that up. And, like, what if they, like, these are what I think of when I watch these scenes. Like, I would love to see what would happen if they finished out the battle. Because oh my God, could you imagine? And then out of the corner, here comes, like, Harley and, like, Poison Ivy, and one's holding one down with vines, and then one's got, like, guys, stop it. Like, stop. It's very much like my future. I hope this is my future. Surrounded by villainous women trying to tie me down.
I would like a live action film where you've got, they might be kind of too similar in a way, but I want Catwoman and Ivy in the same live action movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love both of them, and I think that is one problem you could say with Ivy, as much as I love her in these movies, is she is kind of just doing this. She's just doing Catwoman. Like, she's even doing the voice and everything. You know, it's very similar, but I want to see how they'd handle that. That'd be interesting.
I think so too.
I'm very much looking forward to Ivy just because we have to get over the hump of Batman Forever. And I love Batman Forever as a movie, but it is very noticeable in terms of like, we had a lot of female guests this season who were they wanted to come on for this movie specifically because they wanted to talk about Catwoman. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's great. And then Batman Forever, it's like you have the personality vacuum of Dr. Chase Meridian, who was just this. It was literally just. The thing is, though, we say this now. I say this now. She seems to be just like, she's just there to kind of be boring, dry scenes, and then she's a damsel in distress, and then that's the end of the movie. You never see her.
There's
again.
no strong women in the next.
Yeah, but then, and of course, the other elements you get is like, Two-Face's minions. And I'm sure some people maybe some people are okay with that and whatnot, but then the fact that at least Batman and Robin at least has Poison Ivy and Batgirl to be like, look, we do have good female representation, whereas the previous movie did not, like at all. I'm sure maybe some people will come along very, very defensive of Chase Meridian. I'm looking forward to hearing their positions if they are, but. I also should mention, Brittany, one of the things we had recurring throughout the first season of the show was that I was always under the impression that Jack Nicholson, because we're talking a lot about Jack Nicholson, that he was regarded as a very sexy, like as a real sex icon and stuff. Was stunned to find out in recording, a lot of women, no, they find him kind of repulsive these days. So one of our recurring questions throughout that entire first season, and of course, unfortunately, you weren't here for the first season, but like was like, we asked every guest, do you find Jack Nicholson sexy? So I put it to you, do you find Jack Nicholson sexy at any point in his career, like even old school or up through and including like nowadays Jack Nicholson?
If I'm gonna be honest, the way I would describe him is just daddy. Like he really is. He's that older, blunt, kind of like messy, kind of dirty old man that I kind of love because every movie he plays some of the most like vile people, and I love it. And even guys, I have no fear and I have nothing. Like, honestly, I always joke. I'm like, the worst things have happened to me. Honestly, at this point now, it's just an adventure. So, like, let's go. I'm not scared but I love it. And so, I have a kink. I have a total kink for, like, really not great people who also know a lot about stuff, because Jack Nicholson always plays a guy who knows something. Oh yeah. And I like that. I like a guy who knows stuff I don't know. So I feel like I could really learn from him. Like I could do the schoolgirl thing with him and be like, tell me everything you know, daddy. And then like we could do like a whole thing and it'd be like, it would be great. So yeah, I undeniably, unregrettably, no shame, like totally would worship. Sorry ladies, I don't share your sentiment.
I think that's what it is, though, isn't it? It's the attitude more than anything. The people who did like him didn't necessarily think he was like traditionally handsome or sexy in the normal way. It was always like, I love his attitude. He comes across like
absolutely
filth.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something about it. I
also wonder as well, like if it's a thing where I know people have said in the past, like you have like horror movie directors, like John Carpenter and Wes Craven and stuff. Those guys are literally like, for the violent movies they make, the nicest guys in the world. Everyone's like, oh yeah, Wes Craven was such a lovely human being, like kind, gentle man, but he made like Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff. And I also find with Jack is like, because he's so avuncularly, like openly sexual and whatnot, and so openly kind of like, oh yeah, arched eyebrow and like, hey, the sleazy smile and stuff. But beyond one person who was a male extra in the first movie, everyone else had nothing but praise for Jack Nicholson, and particularly like Diane Keaton was talking about, like, oh yeah, he took pay cuts and stuff. He gave me his extra pay because I was getting paid less than him in a movie we started together and stuff. Everyone has nothing but nice things to say about Jack Nicholson. So I wonder if it's kind of a thing like, oh yeah, he's open about his sort of almost sleazy sexuality, but whereas somebody like, not to point fingers and whatnot, but there's someone like a Louis C.K. who seemed like a nice guy and turns out behind closed doors was a bit more pervy than most people will welcome.
Yeah. You know what frustrates me? Okay, I called on my comedian people. I was like, hey, if you know Louis, tell him to call me, because like I could help him. And like his comebacks are so like he's not ready because he doesn't actually believe what he did was wrong. There's no way you could think what you did was wrong and then react the way you're reacting. But I will tell you this, he has a perfectly common kink: masturbating in front of people, exhibitionism, wanting to be watched. Oh my, I could tell you the stories. Like, that's what I'm trying to say to these people. My job on the internet is to tell people, look, whatever you think is weird that you have to force it upon other people because there's no way someone's going to like it, you're wrong. Yeah, there are millions of people who like whatever you're into, dude. Trust me. As somebody who's into the weirdest crap, I'm amazed. I'm like, oh yeah, someone's definitely always going to be into it. You just have to find it. If Louis C.K. had found like my dungeon, he had found out we have a whole night dedicated to this kind of kink, then he maybe would have had an outlet that did involve harassing women in his justified way. You know what I mean? So this is my goal. And I actually think, I'm sorry, to bring it back to Batman, my mom was always right. Look at the agendas in media. Maybe it is an agenda. Maybe Tim Burton was like, you know what? I'm sick of people saying my lifestyle is weird. Or maybe Marston's wrote Wonder Woman and they're like, you know what? We need representation. Maybe it is an agenda in media to tell other adults, you need to relax.
Definitely. Allow
other adults to do their thing. And look how fun it is. Guys, we're talking about comic book characters, grown men that dress up in leather and latex with gadgets on their belts. I think we can allow some kinky sex. Like, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. Exactly. You know?
all these things, that's the thing with Louis. You know, all these things are fine if it's agreed upon, it's consensual. I'm
Literally,
sure
that's all
lots
we're
of people
asking.
would have just let him do that and been into it
Oh
themselves.
my gosh.
And, you know, that's fine.
Sarah Silverman said she completely consented to him doing it in front of her, and she thought that he was getting literal consent from everyone else because, look, at the end of the day, it's not going to bother people like me. I mean, I most certainly, like, my friends and I have these relationships. They're not bothersome to me. I'm fine. Like, it's great. So, like, the idea is, like, that's all we need is the consent. The fact that it's so hard to get consent from people seems very interesting to me. Like, these people are having a hard time just, like, it's like they don't want the rejection part of it, I think. A big part of it. Again, even going back to Catwoman, rejection would suck in those instances. Yeah. Like, you're trying to be sexy, but it's better to be rejected than to violate people's consent. I think we all agree on that.
Oh, God, yes. Absolutely.
But in going... In, you know, progressing from the Jack question, another thing we've, like, you know, should also ask as well, because the one we've corresponding that in this movie is Chris Walken. Is Walken, is he a sexy? The thing is, I always thought Jack was, and then I always thought that Chris is a creepy looking guy.
No,
I found out
sexy.
No, the thing is, I found out, this movie. No, people regard Walken has been sexy. It's like, what is going on?
It's the attitude, man. Okay, Walken is daddy uncle. No, I have tiers. I have a whole tier system in my head of how to rank, like, status. So daddies are leaders. Daddy uncles are sexy, but kinky sex useful, but not really, like, they're, like, not good leaders. They're good side characters. Like, Walken's a good guy you want in your arsenal, but Jack's gonna lead us through the battle.
That makes sense. Yeah.
You know, if you ran a mafia, like, you would definitely have, like, you know what I mean? Walken would be there as, like, the relief, the comic relief, and then Jack would be there to, like, kill bitches, is basically.
I love that description. That's perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, because we're kind of done with the action for the minute. I don't know. Is there any? Do you have any fond memories of this movie, Brittany, or anything like in terms of like when the first time you saw it, or anything that you would want to recall?
So, I literally grew up in a really religious home that loved comic book characters, so the only venue I had into seeing adults be anything alternative was these films, including all the Batman films. Like, I watched all the Batman films as a kid. I liked them particularly more so than, like, Superman or anyone else, just because I think I was such a moody, emo child that I needed that aggression. You know, like, literally, like, Batman is really he's trying his hardest to find justice in a world that is genuinely hard to exist in, and I think that it feels like that for a lot of us. We're trying to be good people in a world that's very, very challenging in that way. Yeah. And then, of course, you've got this element where, as a queer child, like, I'm bisexual, I'm 9 years old, I'm understanding that gayness is bad, but here's these women in these films just owning their bodies and their agency and being so aggressively like, I'm into you, and I was like, yeah, I want to feel that powerful. I feel like that now, nearing 30, I love that I feel like I have the agency and the respectability to approach another adult and be like, hey, I'm very attracted to you. I'm into you. Let's, fight, have sex. And like, let's do this thing where like, I love that dynamic they have where they're both powerful and they're both battling each other. I mean, I could go on forever about Poison Ivy. I could go on forever about Harley or Two-Face. Like, I love these characters because they are complicated. They're figuring themselves out. Some of them own their agency, and then others, they teach each other. I'd like to think that their Joker is secretly teaching Batman to know himself, and I'd like to think that Catwoman, like seriously, Catwoman is teaching Batman to relax, and Poison Ivy is teaching Batman he's her bitch. But like, that's all these things. It's like, I love it. I have such great fond memories. I remember, if I may, I had fallen in love with Batman, Robin, and Poison Ivy. Like, just fallen in love with the ultimate threesome. And I went to Six Flags or Universal Studios or something in Los Angeles where they had a show, like see Batman and Robin, Poison Ivy, and here they come on stage. And I just thought as a little girl, it was real. And in my head, I was like, I'm gonna meet the queen. And I was like a child. But guys, it really for me just made me so happy because I thought I was seeing my like future in person. I was like, look, I can have this. I can have it. And now I do. I have threesomes with Batman loving humans every day. And like, I love it so much. My life is great. Like, my life is a peach. And I get to be nerdy, and all of the people in my life love nerdy stuff. And I just love it. This life has brought us here. But I honestly, comic books change and help shift culture, I think, in a better direction, in my opinion.
Definitely. That is the most important part of them, I would say, and especially of these films.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm all noted out for this minute. If you guys are as well.
Yeah.
So before we head off into the dark, dark night, Brittany, would you like to tell our good listeners where they can find you online if they'd like to get in touch or check out anything of yours?
Absolutely. So if you go to YouTube, you can just Google Brittany Simon, Simon, and then my channels will come up. I run a main political channel where I talk about culture, alternative lifestyles, maybe more movie stuff like this, because I love how cinema expresses who we are. I mean, it is art, and art is made by people who want to express themselves. So I love it so much. And on Twitter, just Brittany Simon as well. And yeah, that's me.
Hey, well, do check that out, and check us out on Facebook at the Bat-Minute Listeners Cave, and on Twitter at Bat-Minute. And if you'd be very kind and give us a review on iTunes, that would be lovely. I'll buy you a drink. If you come down to Liverpool in England, I'll buy you any drink of your choosing that's under. Should really stress
that's John saying he'll buy you that drink. I will not buy you that drink.
No, Niall will just throw scorn in your direction, as he always does. But, this is the one where you can get me to like you, because I hate everybody. So if you do that, I will like you. You will join those elite ranks. So join us again. We'll be back on Friday. We will have a new minute. It will be minute 81, and we will have a new guest. See you then. Next time, press A to glide. After another puncturing by a pussy, the petrifier of Pekin stretches his pectorals to get aeronautical. But while the crusader makes an escape by the seat of his cape, which sovereigns of hate have made a date? Find out Friday. Same bat pod, different Bat Minute.